Howdy, folks. It's Saturday, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for another episode of Untold Tales from this side of nowhere. I'm your host, Connor Jones, and I'm bringing you the first in our series of Untold Tales from this side of nowhere, Retold, or retellings of Untold Tales from this side of nowhere. Oh, we're still working on the name. But in this episode, we will replay an episode from the past, which means if you have been a longtime listener, you might recognize this one, but it has been a few years since we shared this story. So I have chosen to share the first ever story that I recorded, and that story will begin right after this message from our sponsors. We're sponsored by Basins Market, located in Basin, Wyoming. Basins Market is your destination for groceries, fresh produce, and the best meat department in the Bighorn Basin. Come in and sample their wide selection of products Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Sundays from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. We are also sponsored by the Wyoming Welcome Program. The Wyoming Welcome Program offers two services to local businesses: Table Talk and the Wyoming Welcome Baskets. Wyoming Welcome Baskets are filled with promotional items for local businesses and distributed to new move-ins to the Bighorn Basin. Table Talk brochures include jokes, facts about the state of Wyoming, the month's holidays, and advertisements from our local businesses. These brochures are placed on restaurant tables in Cody and Powell for diners to peruse. So if you'd like to get your business name out there, please contact the folks at the Wyoming Welcome Program by shooting an email to Haley J, that's HALEYJ, at wyomingwelcome.com. Do you have a noxious weed problem? The team at 307 Pest Management can help. We offer residential and commercial noxious weed management that is safe and affordable. Whether you have a parking lot, a yard, or some production land that needs treated for noxious weeds, 307 Pest Management is ready to help get your weeds under control. Give them a call today for a free quote at 307-250-0614 or send an email to 307pestmanagement@gmail.com. Today's story will introduce some characters and bring you into the world of Poverty Flats, Wyoming. Now, these stories are meant to be humorous, so feel free to laugh. And these are all stories that come from my experiences growing up in northwestern Wyoming. And I've really enjoyed writing them. I think you'll like these too. So here is the inaugural story. This one is entitled, Welcome to Poverty Flats. More than a century back, when great-uncle Lehi Thorley came to the Bighorn Basin in northern Wyoming, he couldn't believe his eyes. Compared to drought-stricken southern Utah, the basin's rolling hills dotted with sagebrush and the cottonwood-covered river bottoms seemed almost too good to be true. "It looks like the Garden of Eden," he reported to our dust-covered ancestors. They kicked at the parched desert soil and looked around at the sand hills and red rocks, then back at each other. Next thing you know, they had sold their land and hopped on the next train bound for Garland, Wyoming. From there, it was a 50-mile trek south to Poverty Flats, and so the Joneses came to northern Wyoming. "Hold on," my wife Lily interrupted me. "You mean to tell me your great-great-uncle actually thought this place looked like the Garden of Eden? Does your family history say anything about the reliability of his eyesight?" Lily and I were driving through the rolling hills between Burlington and Powell, the remaining grass of spring waving gently in a summer breeze on either side of the road. The summer sun had browned a fair portion of the greenery, but here and there a resilient patch pushed its way out of the sandy landscape. "Now that's a little harsh," I said defensively. "When it rains, it can look pretty green around here." Lily surveyed the barren red hills that rose above the parched grass with a wary eye. "Well, I think the Garden of Eden is a little too generous. Just saying," she asserted. I shook my head sadly. Lily had obviously never been to a real desert, but I couldn't hold her inexperience against her. "Now where was I?" I asked, slowing to let a herd of antelope cross the road in front of us. "You were saying your family got here 100 years ago," Lily reminded me. "Oh yes," I said. "Both my grandparents and my parents grew up in the Otto Burlington area, and though they moved away to Idaho for college, the draw of home was still strong. Idaho was nice, but could you shoot a deer off your back porch?" "No." I glanced over at Lily to see what effect this revelation would have on her. She rolled her eyes, obviously impressed. I continued. "Idaho was chock full of farmers, but did they grow dirt and the occasional sugar beet like Wyoming farmers? Nope, just potatoes in large quantities. Both Wyoming's virtues and the desire to live closer to their parents finally prompted Mom and Dad to pack up and move back to the Bighorn Basin." "Wait," Lily cut in. "Are you going to tell me the whole story of your move to Wyoming?" "Well, since you asked..." At the end of the 6-hour drive from Rupert, Idaho to northern Wyoming, I was eager to get out of the truck. So when we turned off the asphalt and onto the dirt road that would become so familiar to me, I was excited. Since all I could see was dirt, sagebrush, and the occasional Russian olive tree, I knew we were getting close. With wide eyes, I surveyed the sandy landscape. This was going to be our new home. The first thing I noticed about our new home was how my teeth had begun chattering even though it was the height of summer. I was also aware of a rattling sound coming from the seat beside me. It took me a moment, but I soon realized the sound was my twin brother Fred's teeth knocking together too. "Mom," I said, the word forming at least 3 syllables due to all the bouncing and jarring I was experiencing. "Why is everything shaking?" "Oh, Al," she responded, "that's just the washboards." "The washboards?" I asked, puzzled. "On the road," Dad chipped in. "It needs graded. Hopefully the county gets out here with a grader soon." Upon closer inspection, I noticed the road was as wavy as a tin roof. That explained the chattering. What with all the washboards, I was surprised to find the truck and half of our worldly possessions were coated in a fine layer of dust when we stopped. "Those washboards don't work very well," I told Fred when we got out of the truck and surveyed all the dirt. "Yeah," Fred agreed, "but I bet you if we drove around with a jug of milk long enough, we could make butter." I'd made a mental note to try it out as soon as possible. For now, we had more important things to worry about. "Welcome to Poverty Flats," Dad announced as we all lined up beside the vehicle. A tumbleweed rolled by, and a cow mooed in the distance. "Is that our house?" My eldest sister Candace, the ringleader of the Trio of Trouble, piped up. "The Trio of Trouble? Really?" Lily raised her eyebrows in that way only wives can. "And what did they call you and your twin brother Fred? The diabolical duo?" "Ha ha, very funny," I chuckled dryly. "Now quit interrupting." I looked around for our house. Seeing nothing but a scrappy modular home with a lopsided growth hanging off the side like a mole on an old man's face, I began to wonder if we were in the right place. "Yup," Dad replied cheerfully. "It's only cheerfully." "Yup," Dad replied cheerfully. "It's only temporary. We're going to start building on our new house as soon as we get settled in." Years later, we would be questioning Dad's definition of the word temporary. I took a close look at our proposed dwelling place. A dusty wooden porch jutted out in front of the brown wooden addition, the occasional missing board lending to the impression of a boxer who had been on the receiving end of some violent dental work. The sliding glass doors glinted like a pair of glassy eyes, and green tin roofing topped off the addition. This lean-to clung to the side of the trailer, a single wide, which was probably white back when it was first built, likely during the Nixon administration. A few sheep milled around for aesthetic purposes and provided the occasional bah for ambiance. "Wow," my brother Fred breathed. "Are all these rocks ours too?" He was pointing to the gravel that littered the ground in front of the porch with the missing teeth. Yes," Mom replied. Fred and I shared a glance. Things were looking up already. Dad shooed away a few yews and pulled open the sliding glass door. It ran across the track and made a satisfying whoomp at the end of its journey. "Our Idaho house didn't have a glass door," one of the weird sisters piped up. "Another nickname," Lily interjected. "No, that was their official title. Let me tell this story," Lily groaned. Fred and I thought the glass door was pretty cool, and so was the front room. Our footsteps thudded hollowly, hinting at the plywood hidden by the tan carpet. "This will be the girls' room," Mom said, waving a hand to the left. All three lined up and peered into what would become their infamous lair. Visions of pink curtains and other similarly disgusting girly decor flashed through their minds as they surveyed the room. "Take a good look now," Candace cackled. "You'll never see the inside of this room again." I doubted that very much, but figured it best not to disagree with my parents present. Up a few little wood steps, we found the kitchen and dining room. Little roses clambered up white wallpaper, and stained cream-colored linoleum covered the floor. The windows looked out over a pasture and a copse of Russian olives bordering the ditch. I could just make out the Bighorn Mountains in the distance, their blue peaks thrusting up into the clouds. "It's a bit small, but it will do," Mom said bravely. I'm sure she was thinking about the big kitchen and its adjoining dining room back in Idaho. But she smiled brightly and continued the tour. We stepped onto brown shag carpet and walked through a little family room. The ceiling fan overhead swayed dangerously on a wooden framework, evidently designed to keep the fan from falling onto the room's occupants. Judging by the ominous creaking sound the fan made as it wobbled on its moorings, I made a mental note not to spend too much time directly under it. Later, Fred and I would lay on the floor and watch its wonky movements for fun. The risk of getting squished by a ceiling fan just added to the excitement. Leaving the living room, all 9 of us filed down the narrow hallway like so many spelunkers, the elbows of the larger members of the family brushing the walls on either side of the hall simultaneously. The bedroom where Fred and I would sleep, the baby's room, the single bathroom that could have starred in a 70s sitcom, and the master bedroom rounded out the rooms in our new home. "Now remember," Dad was saying to Fred, "don't jump on your bed. And I'm not just saying that. I'm serious. Don't jump on your bed." "Why not?" Fred asked. "The floor isn't too sturdy on your side of the room, and if you jump on the bed, it will go right through the extra plywood I laid down." Dad stopped mid-sentence, his eyes widening. "What was that?" Mom asked. 9 people held their breath and listened. Faintly at first, then slowly getting louder, the unmistakable sound of sheep bleating reached our ears. "Bah! Bah!" went the sheep. "Dad!" screamed the weird sisters in unison. Dad bolted down the hall and past the ceiling fan that wobbled on its moorings, through the little kitchen and dining area with the view of the bighorns, and thundered down the little wooden steps, the 8 of us hot on his heels. There, in our new front room, stood a small herd of sheep. "No!" Mom shouted. "Bah!" said the sheep. One of them lifted a rear leg. Dad charged forward like an NFL linebacker, and the sheep, realizing they had met their match, bolted. Like a herd of gazelles, they bounded over the tan carpet, their hooves thudding on the plywood, and leaped through the sliding glass door. Some accounts report my mother burst into tears at that point, But the point everyone agrees on is who was guilty of leaving the sliding glass door open. Now, don't corroborate this with any of my siblings, but I can tell you without a doubt the trio of trouble were the last ones to enter the trailer house and are therefore responsible for the great sheep invasion. Regardless of who was at fault, all 7 of us children learned very quickly to close the sliding glass door behind us, and we never did have any more 4-legged intruders. Lily gasped. Wow, and that was your introduction to Poverty Flats, huh? Those sheep in your front room? Yep, I nodded. They just waltzed right in like they owned the place. I didn't know sheep could waltz, said Lily. More of a trot, really, I grinned. I slowed down as we entered the Powell city limits. A cop sitting in his car by the population sign lifted a hand in greeting. That's one thing about Wyoming. Everyone waves at each other. It can be kind of disconcerting for people who aren't used to it. We're almost to our new house, I said, turning by a car dealership. Your mom sure is a tough lady, Lily breathed. She is, I agreed. But don't you worry, you're going to love it here. Are you sure about that? Lily replied. She didn't sound that confident. I'm sure. Well, we're not going to have any sheep, are we? Lily asked. I grinned. Do you want some? No way. Yeah, that is a classic. If you've ever wondered how it all started, it began back, it's been decades ago now, I guess, when the Jones family came to Wyoming. So I love sharing stories with you guys, and I appreciate you listening in on this Saturday morning. As I've mentioned before, you can now catch Untold Tales from this side of nowhere any Saturday. We've got an episode coming out every Saturday morning, and please reach out. If you have a story to share or a comment, I invite you to like the show and follow it wherever you get your podcasts. You can reach me at untoldtalesofpodcast@gmail.com or comment on Facebook when this episode drops. As always, this has been another Untold Tale from this side of nowhere, where we work twice as hard for half as much and still find time for the important things, like fishing. See you next time, folks.